For those of you who don't know, Fairygodboss is the largest career community for women. Millions of women visit Fairygodboss for career connections and jobs and community advice, hard to find intel on how companies treat women, and of course, virtual events like this one. My name is Eloise Aone, and I'm the director of Coach Connect at the Muse and a part of the Fairygodboss team. And I'm excited to kick off today's event, Navigating Change, Strategies for Success in Today's Job Market, sponsored by Career Group Companies. We're going to be chatting about strategies to help you adapt and thrive in a rapidly changing job market so that you can learn to leverage your skills and stand out from the competition. We'll chat about industries to check out that have growth potential, about how to network in a digital world, and of course, we'll make sure that you can walk away from today's conversation with ideas on how you can improve your skills. We're thrilled to be joined today by three leaders at Career Group Companies, Susan Levine, Emily Levine, and Diana Kasabian. Thank you for joining us, ladies. We'd love to kick off by hearing what's going on for you in your life personally and professionally, and what you do in your role today at Career Group Companies. Susan, we'd love to start with you.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Eloise, for kicking this off. We are all very, very excited to be a part of this. And it is a wonderful time for us, challenging, but a wonderful time in the market. We've seen a lot of change. We keep going back to what's been happening since the pandemic. But we're feeling a lot of excitement, enthusiasm. We are really fortunate that we've been able to maintain being very, very busy. We have a diverse group of clients throughout the country, as well as the same on behalf of great talent. So it's a very energized time for us as recruiters, and we're excited to share a lot of tips with all the viewers today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Susan. And how about you, Emily?
So my name's Emily. Nice to meet everybody. I am based in Los Angeles, and I am a senior vice president with Career Group Companies. I have been with the firm for 13 years, began my career in New York City, and then relocated out to LA. I am often recruiting on behalf of my clients pretty much across all industries, predominantly in LA, but all throughout the country as well. Anything from administrative and HR to tech, media, entertainment, real estate, consulting, pretty much all industries. So really feeling like I have pretty good pulse on the market right now, and looking forward to answering any questions.
Great, thank you. And Diana, last but not least.
My name is Diana Kasabian, and I'm the managing director of Syndicate Blue Creative Talent, the LA office. And I've been with the firm for 25 years. So I've been here a long time. And with Syndicate Blue from the very beginning, and really have seen a lot of changes in the market the last few years. This year has been an interesting year with the acting and writer strike has really affected our industry. So really happy that that's over, but also really happy that we have so many wonderful clients that are loyal to us, and new clients that are referred to us, and you know, being able to work with top tier talent.
Wonderful. Thank you. And for those of you just tuning in, I want to say one more time that we're going to be answering questions that come directly from all of you today. So please submit your questions in the chat to any and all of the panelists today. It's on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll do our best to answer as many of those questions as possible. So let's jump in. We have so much to talk about. We're going to start off by discussing navigating change and really how to stand out from the competition out there today. And I guess the first question that we have is, you know, what are the biggest challenges and opportunities that job seekers are facing today? And how do you see job seekers adapting to meet those needs of the changing job market? Susan, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. Well, I think the good news is there are plenty of wonderful opportunities for the job seekers today. I think what will separate somebody from another job seeker is their mindset, their willingness to be flexible, um, to be open-minded to the fact that many companies today are requiring more and more for people to be back on site, where just even 6 months ago, there was a lot more flexibility where companies were willing to have people work remotely. That's still a possibility, but I am seeing across the board more and more companies want people back in the office for that collaboration and to support the team that's there. There's a lot of opportunity. I think being prepared, I think having a great resume, I think doing your research on the industry that you're passionate about, I think making yourself open to pivoting where you need to pivot for that flexibility. What was once a complete candidates market is shifting now, where I'm going to say it's really moving towards getting back to what we view as kind of the old normal.
Hmm. So I'm hearing flexibility and mindset are two really big things that are popping out there. Emily, would you have anything to add to this?
Yes, absolutely. So I completely agree with everything that Susan said. I think that generally right now, the difficulty in this job market, it's a supply and demand issue. There are, a ton of amazing jobs out there, but there are also 10 times as many candidates looking for those same jobs. And so I think that really what it boils down to is really being comfortable taking a look at opportunities and understanding that perhaps not every single box is going to get checked on your wish list for your next role. It would be great if they did. But, to add to what Susan said, kind of having an open mind, taking a look right now as the market is shifting and understanding that a lot of clients and companies would like for people to be on site. And so it doesn't mean you need to be on site 5 days a week in your next role, but at least being open to the idea, if the commute makes sense for you and your family, to sort of taking a look at what's going on in the landscape right now and becoming a little bit more open to that. And then I think that, just in terms of navigating the market and really deciding if it's the right time to be looking for something new, is taking a look at the time of year. Oftentimes, January is a great time to kickstart your search. You can start now, but more openings will become available after people receive their bonuses and resign from their roles, creating new opportunities for others.
Yeah, nice. And what are some techniques that you've seen candidates use or take or really focus on that can help them develop the mindset that Susan was talking about and that resilience, that adaptability when searching for a new role, given the market that you're describing? Susan or Emily, whoever wants to jump in.
Emily?
Well, I was just going to add, I think it's really important to, I'm a big believer in writing things down. So making a checklist and writing down the things that are actually prompting your search. The same way if you get a job offer or any sort of major crossroads in your life, creating like a pro and con list. But I think making a list of what it is that you're looking for and what's actually motivating your search is very helpful. And setting goals and deciding if making a career shift is going to get you that much closer to that goal. Also remembering that a lot of things that we're dealing with in the market today are temporary. And so really not getting too caught up in today, but really thinking about the choices that you're making and how that might impact you a month from now or a year from now or 5 years from now. And I'll let Susan sort of piggyback on that.
Well, what I like to tell candidates as far as the checklist goes, because, it's a long, thoughtful process, what we go through with each candidate, getting to know them, knowing exactly what they want, their likes, their dislikes. I think it's really important that someone take a role that they're very passionate about. As recruiters, we interview a lot of people, And sometimes somebody will say, I'm going to go with this job. It's $5,000 more. But at the end of the day, do you want to sort of grow old at that company? I want to believe that I'm representing people that want to plant roots. It can't always be just about the compensation, because if you stay somewhere long enough, the compensation will increase. It will be there for you. I would say the number one sort of piece of advice that I would want to give to somebody in today's market is, what path do you want to be on? Where do you see yourself between now and the next 5 years and the next 10 years? Do you want to be aligned with a certain industry or a company? But, back to what Emily said, look at the big picture. And that's also where flexibility comes in. Often we've interviewed people where it's a hard no compared to something else. And we've said, we just want you to think of it this way. And they go on an interview and they're so happy that we've encouraged them just to look at it. And it turns out that's actually the role they wanted, because they love the team. So we always say we're the people's architect, and that there's so many elements to finding that dream job.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Thank you. And you mentioned the variety of industries there, and being open to for perhaps things that might not be on your radar. What are some of the emerging industries and sectors that you see has growth potential in the coming, in the near future? Are there any trends there, or industries, sectors that people should be looking out for?
I mean, there's so many, but Emily, do you want to?
The first one that comes to mind for me right now is AI. I think that if you want to sort of put that in the bucket of technology, I think that it's just sort of the very beginning of what could be. And so I think about AI as being sort of the way of the future potentially. And I mean, whether it's consumer packaged goods or, e-commerce, these things aren't going away. And so I really think it's about, joining a team or an industry where you're open to taking the meeting, seeing if you jive with the team and the people, and if you can kind of get behind the company's mission or product. We're seeing obviously an increase in consideration around that as well. I've seen a couple of the questions that have come through. A few people have asked if Susan and I are related. So
how could you tell, aside from
yes,
name and looks?
Yes, we are. Susan's my mother, and she founded Career Group Companies. So I thought that I would answer that question.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. And Diana, do you have anything to add to this? The emerging industries and sectors that you see from your point of view?
Well, I was going to say AI and obviously technology, but this year we've seen a lot of increase in everything social media. Like a lot of the agencies, a lot of the jobs that we're getting requests for are social media has just grown so much, or anything to do with creating original content has been a huge growth for us.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. That's great. And in the industries that you've named, and the areas that you've mentioned, what transferable skills or backgrounds are employers looking for that job seekers today should be aware of, right? So if I have never been in AI or tech, for example, as a job seeker, what would you say to me that I can leverage, given the variety of experiences that I might have had, that will help me move into those industries? Emily,
Yep.
Diana?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Di.
Well, I mean, AI is so new that when I'm talking to like even my developers, I'm asking them, what do people do? How is this something that people can get involved in? And they're like, it's just so new that, it's like when UI UX, which is still very big, designers and developers created that, it was people that had a strong web background that were web designers, and then they kind of started learning the UI UX. So I think people that are again, strong writing skills, computer savvy, learning as many computer skills, Adobe Creative Suite, being able to learn some of the softwares and development tools. I think if that's an area that you're inclined to working in.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, it's very exciting, but also a little scary. That's AI. It's like the big at the moment, but it's just, I think anytime you can learn any new skills within technology can only help you.
Yeah, and going back to what Susan was saying before, right? Adaptability, that on itself, right? Being someone who is
Open.
curious and innovative and
Yeah.
adaptable, those are fantastic skills that can be refined and learned in a variety of industries that can be brought into these more innovative areas as well.
And I think just having the
Yeah.
mindset, I always tell candidates, look, when you go into an interview, think about what you can give. What benefits do you offer this company and assets instead of thinking, what can this company do for me? Like having that mindset.
Yeah, nice.
And being really prepared. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, number one, we all feel super fortunate that we get to be in the people industry, and everybody's different and unique, which is fascinating and exciting. But there are certain common threads that sort of run from division to division, and the talent that we represent. What are companies looking for? They're looking for those standout individuals. So, what does that really mean? It means someone who has done their homework on the company that they're interested in working for. Um, I'm a very animated person, so I really love representing talent that are great storytellers. And what I mean by that is somebody who, even if they aren't necessarily going into an interview with the most confidence, they're good actors, right? They know that they can be shy when they're interviewing, and so they can practice before that happens. And that's what we're here for. We are every individual candidate's personal coach. And so it's psychology. It's getting you ready to go out and to really be the best version of yourself, so that any job you're interested in, they're equally interested in going to the next steps with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I've been looking at the chat a little bit, and I've been seeing a couple comments coming in about being in a job search for a while, being burned out from your previous position, really looking to find that new position, but having trouble landing it. And one question specifically crystallized, I think, that for that idea for a lot of people. And the question is, what have you seen as the average time for people to be in an active job search? Pre-pandemic, it was 3 months on average, but I've had a hard time getting a beat on it since, right? So the idea here, I think, is, setting expectations for oneself during a job search can be so important, because if not, it's this endless thing, and not having targets that we can actually hold on to, it makes it really difficult. How long would you say to a job seeker who's just starting off, should it take for them to land that job that's going to make them feel like they're thriving?
I think that every person's experience is their own journey when finding their next role. And so it really depends on so many different factors. Those factors are your trade. If you are an executive assistant seeking a new role, we've seen more of those openings than we have, for, there have been recent layoffs within tech. Like, that's going to be harder. And so I think that really understanding what your trade is and what the market looks like there. I think, again, as I mentioned before, being as flexible as you can be while still checking off most of the check boxes on your wish list will help widen the net for opportunities, that you're interested in. Taking a look at the time of year, oftentimes summer can be a little bit slower with job hunting, as the key stakeholders and decision makers, are traveling or Even end of year can be difficult as entertainment and some of the creative industries shut down halfway through December, and, sort of hitting budgets. So really thinking about the time of year and, I'd say just to put numbers on it, I've seen job searches be as quick as, a week or two to taking as long as 6 months. And if it's taking longer than that, then I would maybe take a look at maybe why, and if you are maybe shooting too high in terms of salary expectations. If you're only open to full-time jobs, maybe you should consider freelancing and getting your foot in the door right away. Maybe be flexible to not the ideal setup, whether it's remote versus hybrid, but you know, gaining work experience, adding to your resume, networking at work. So I think those are all things to consider.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
also
Thank you.
go to a recruiter. Like if you go to a recruiter, it can only be helpful in navigating the market, understanding who your competition is, and not getting so hung up on the minutia in your search, but really having that one-on-one career coach.
Yeah, nice.
One thing I want to add is I agree with Emily. I mean, we've had candidates come in and we've honestly placed people in even less than a week. It depends on the person. It depends on the type of role they're seeking. But you'd be surprised how many great jobs we have for candidates where actually the candidates can be the holdup, where they turn down multiple jobs for reasons that we're scratching our head, right, guys? I mean, so it goes back to what Emily was saying as far as being realistic as a job seeker. We never give up on anyone. I've placed people where it's taken 2 years, not because they're not placeable, because of a precise role that they need, or
they're passively looking, right?
yeah,
And they have a role they'd like to level up, but they're only leaving for that, once in a lifetime opportunity.
there are, and I don't know if this is allowed, but there are a few questions that have come in that I'm noticing that I'd love to just comment on from
Let's
Stephanie.
jump in for sure. Yeah.
Stephanie wants to know, how much do cover letters matter? I think it's important to identify who you are, what type of role that you're looking for. I think that it should be in line with the industry that you're applying to. We've seen cover letters that actually make no sense whatsoever for the type of position that they're applying for. I also think it's really important that whomever writes this cover letter make sure that the grammar is correct. What were you saying, Emily?
That it's well written.
Exactly.
Because it is a piece of your work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's just like a resume. It's the first introduction to a company of who you are. And if it's riddled with errors, you're probably going to be overlooked. I do think writing a nice cover letter that's thoughtful, that catches somebody's eye so that you stand out is important. Another question was, how do I find a good recruiter? That's a good question. And I say it like that because there are a lot of recruiters, but there are not a lot of recruiters who necessarily are non-transactional, where they're really invested in you from sort of a human being and really caring and nurturing. And we're much more than recruiters. And what I mean by that is we like to believe that we're advisors, that we're helping you guide your job search through a process where it changes your life and it's not just another new job. So doing your homework on the recruiters and their background and their LinkedIn and the type of posts that they have and maybe their own mission statement. but getting somebody who's really invested in you and not just closing the deal.
Hmm. There were a few other questions about career changers specifically with recruiters, and one was about how does a recruiter decide if they will interview candidates who don't come from backgrounds that they typically recruit from. That's one question. I'm gonna match it with the other because I think you can answer it at once. Is how do you recommend people talk about their career transitions in their resume, in their written documents? So the kind of general question here is how do you navigate people who come to you who maybe don't fit into a clear box?
Okay, do you want to go, Q?
I think when someone comes to me and they're like, oh, I think I'm not sure where I want to go. I did this, but I want something new. Because a lot of our jobs are very specialized, and that's why clients come to us. And, like if they need somebody, it's very, very specific of how many years and what technologies and backgrounds that they have. But if someone, for example, is a project manager and they want to be more client facing and more of an account manager, there might be some transferable skills there. So I think just being very clear on what you want to do and where you want to go, or like if you're interested in something, well, saying that and then asking, well, what do I need to do? What other additional skills or maybe courses that I need to take or learn to get there? I think just having a really strong idea of what you want to do, I think helps.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And it leads me to the next. Oh, go ahead, Susan.
No. I just wanted Emily also because she handles a lot of different industries too. So
I think, as Diana had mentioned, there are a lot of transferable skills that people have if they want to transition into something new. And so you might need to realize that there might be multiple steps involved before you just snap your fingers and become the next level up. Or, if you want to transition to an entirely new industry, you might need to do, a job change and become, if you want to switch into entertainment, let's just say, you might need to transition to something that's entertainment adjacent first, pick up a year or two of experience and then make the move. And so just really understanding, that's why I mentioned it's really important to write out what your goals are. And you might not know what your end stopping place is, but writing down your goals and knowing that, you might be making steps towards that goal, but that it might take some time. So kind of mapping out, your trajectory, I think is helpful.
Yeah, that's great. And we in preparation for our conversation today, we had talked very much about skill sets, the skill sets of tomorrow, right? So what are when you're thinking, given what you think about every day and the people that you're helping and the larger industry trends that you're seeing, when you're talking to these employers and when you're thinking about those things, what would be, the three skill sets or areas of expertise that you see are in high demand and will continue to be in high demand? I think that this is going to be helpful to our listeners to help them understand perhaps how they might fit in to these larger trends that might be ones that they can hop onto. Susan, Emily, do you have any thoughts here?
Emily, I'll let you kick that off.
So I see these skills as sort of different verticals, different buckets. And so I'd say one of the pillars that we see is communication, which is broad. But I think there's written communication, there's just verbal communication. So being able in an interview to articulate why you're a good fit for something, being a strong communicator, and it translates well in the workplace. Having strong writing skills is the foundation of so many different careers. Another pillar would be like technical skills. So whether you are in social media or a developer or even an executive assistant, having the computer skills, honestly, to execute the role at hand is very important. So, I saw a question come through about ageism that Liza had asked, and sort of how to combat that in the workplace. Making sure that regardless of age, whether you have a year of experience or, you have 40 years of experience in the workplace, making sure that regardless of anything, that you're able to bring the communication pillar to the table, written and verbal, and the technical side is really important. So in regards to ageism, making sure that if there's a new software that comes out, that you are continuously learning and able to take courses in Concur, Excel, Outlook, whatever new programs, Dropbox, whatever new programs come through, that you're super well versed, that you can operate a PC, but also a Mac, that you are just really versatile and can bring those hard skills to the table.
Susan, anything to add there?
Well, as far as a technical skill, I'd say the skill probably of interviewing and research. And I realize that's not necessarily a tool that one uses on the job, but I think it's a necessary tool in order to get the job. And so I'm going to say EQ, research, being self-aware, piggybacking on what Emily said, as far as being highly organized. People hire people that can do the job, but also people who they like, who they feel are a good fit in their culture, and who they actually feel will propel that culture forward and even make it a nicer, better place to work. So being a team player, these are skills about who you are on the inside and taking that deep dive. And that's why making that perfect match is so important.
Yeah. What I love about that list, Susan, is that those are all transferable skills. You can develop those in whatever industry you're in, right? And bring those to be a good team member somewhere else. That's great. Yeah, thank you. And I'd love to hear, for candidates who have these skill sets, out there, and for anyone who's looking for work right now, can you tell us about a success story that you've seen recently, and how that person successfully navigated that search and landed a job? Perhaps, Susan, you can kick us off here.
Well, there isn't one, let me say, that comes to mind. I would say there's many where someone has taken their job search in their own hands. They've been on the market for a long time. I'd say commonality between all of us and all locations are how people get discouraged because they aren't necessarily positioning themselves the right way to begin with, whether it's their resume, they're very nervous in the interview. There could be a lot of different components that go into it. But I mean, I've had people come into my office and sit down and say, I've been looking for a job for 6 months. They start to cry. I personally feel a true connection for someone that's struggling and says they're on the verge of living in their car because they just can't find that job. And I like feeling like I'm a teacher and a mentor, and that I can lift their spirits and say, here's what I feel you need to be doing. And first identifying maybe some of the things that are weaknesses that we can turn into a strength. And I can place not all, but many of those people very quickly. And it's heartwarming and very fulfilling, again, to know that by coaching and counseling and caring and taking an interest in someone's life, that we can put them in front of the right companies. The benefits of working with a recruiter is that we can pick up the phone for someone who's kind of down and out on their luck, but we believe in them. And we can literally pick up the phone and call a top client of ours and say, we've met someone really special. Their resume may not be that perfect, super impressive resume. But what we always say is you're not hiring a piece of paper. You're hiring a person. And we love this person. And here's why. Are you open to an exploratory? And I think often we've placed a lot of people that way. Do you agree, Emily, where the client's taken a chance on our recommendation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I have a very quick story that comes to mind. I had a candidate that I had worked with for a really, really long time. And I absolutely loved her. She had what we call sometimes a jumpy resume. So a lot of movement in the resume, short stints. And I was having a lot of trouble finding her a job. So I had sent her on over 40 interviews. And it was over the span of 8 months. And she was really stressed, really discouraged. And so I decided to do a mock interview with her. And I encourage anyone to do this with their friends or family, because oftentimes, you know, people who are searching for roles are not aware of perhaps what they're saying, if they get nervous, the energy they're giving off. So I decided to call her into my office and I said, I'm going to pretend I'm the client that you're interviewing with. Let's sort of diagnose what's happening here. And within 5 minutes, I knew that she was not connecting with the interviewer because she was sitting down at the table, you know, at the desk across from me, and she was taking notes. And so she thought that it looked responsible and that she was actually listening to what they were saying, but the interviewer wasn't able to connect with her in any sort of way compared to the other candidates. And I encouraged her to stop that. And I think not the next interview, but the one after that, she landed the job. And so it's things like that where people are perhaps just unaware of a mistake that they might be making in the interview. So a story like that really is uplifting for us. So yeah, that's something that just immediately comes to mind.
That's great. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I love that. So something else that we all talked about before today was networking, specifically in this digital age where we're all behind our computers in different parts of the world, connecting with each other. And I've seen several questions in the chat about how to use LinkedIn, et cetera. I'm curious if you could all talk a little bit about how job seekers you've worked with have successfully networked during their search alongside working with you, and as a result landed a job. Perhaps Diana, you can give us a little insight there.
Well, I always say when you're looking for a job, you got to spread yourself like confetti and speak to everyone and tell everybody. Market yourself. Hey, I'm looking for a job. And, you know, I mean, I get referrals from all kinds of people, from my neighbors, from my family, from my friends, you know, just from people saying, oh, I need a job. I just referred Emily's team, a great candidate that is a sister-in-law of my best friend who's talking to Emily and her team this week. She's got a great background, you know. So I just say, you know, there's job boards. You can, I mean, Google's your best friend. You can Google certain job boards that are relatable to your background. LinkedIn is obviously still very high up there. Connecting with people on LinkedIn, you know, even if it's just informational, you want to have a chat with them, someone that's working in a company that you like and that's doing the, you know, in your field, like connect with them, reach out to them. And it just, there's nothing stronger than picking up a phone and, you know, asking for a call with someone instead of, you know, just emails. Like having a live connection with someone, I think goes a long way.
I think that also LinkedIn can be your best friend, the same way that we connect with candidates over LinkedIn. I believe that when people are vulnerable and letting their LinkedIn community know that they were just laid off, they need help. I've seen like crazy things happen on LinkedIn where a post can go viral, or even, you know, your 300 connections or 3,000 connections, a few different people are, you know, tagging people you don't know to make introductions. I've also heard of people who are, you know, desperate to make a change in their career and they're bold and they reach out to the CEO of a company and they end up getting a job there. And so I think, you want to obviously use discretion to see, what's appropriate or not, but really making sure that you are utilizing your network. Um, I also think if there is an opportunity to go to an event, if there is an opportunity to go to a career fair, just go. I think that, grab a friend and just go to it. I don't know what's the worst thing that's going to happen. You might get a job out of it. You might meet cool people. So saying yes to things, I think, is also important in terms of building your network.
Yeah, yeah. And there's specifically a question here that I'm seeing, that Stephanie asked. I see people posting LinkedIn posts explaining that they're on the job market and what they're looking for. Do you recommend making that sort of post? Also, has anyone done that and gotten positive attention and learned from it? So, Emily, it seems that yes, right, that actually does work, and putting yourself out there and being clear, Diana, as you said, about what you're looking for and what you can bring to the table really does move the needle.
I think so. There's that, but then I also see a lot of employers posting jobs, and then I see other people within the LinkedIn community tagging people that they know that could be a good fit for it. So
yeah,
um, I think just being open and utilizing your network on LinkedIn just as one platform is great. This is, sort of a side note, but kind of like a personal story. I was looking to hire a nanny, and I ended up finding my nanny, who I love, on Facebook. And so, talk about sort of like a social network. I made a post. She didn't even respond to it, but somebody else tagged her in it. And so, I wouldn't have found her otherwise. And so, really thinking about sort of third degree connections, it can lead you to your next job. So absolutely.
It's such a great vehicle to meet so many people that you would never know otherwise. So it's really a value added tool.
Yeah. And people want to help each other is what I'm hearing too, which is so nice. It's such a lovely thing. Yeah. Great. At Fairygodboss, we have a little tradition, which is that we ask our panelists the following question. Given that we've observed that women do not feel comfortable enough bragging or taking ownership of all the amazing things that they've achieved. So our request here is for each of you to share with us an accomplishment, personal or professional, that you're most proud of. Susan, will you kick us off with this?
Yeah. I hate to think of myself as a bragger, but I feel so fortunate for so many things in my life. Number one, I started career group companies when I was 25. I think it's important for everybody that's listening and watching this to know I did not finish my education. I was shy of about 6 months of graduating college, which to this day, in a way, has haunted me. I would have viewed myself in those days as an underachiever. So I think when I say I was a late bloomer, maybe that's the definition of an entrepreneur, because how could you be a late bloomer at 25? But this is going somewhere, this story. I'm very proud that I was able to have a dream and a vision of something that I was excited about, which was recruiting. I just fell into it. And I saw it through a different lens than most people were recruiting in those days, because it was 42 years ago. It was a very unsophisticated business, and there was not a lot of collaboration. It was very just kind of mainstream and not peeling off layers of people to getting to know them. So I'm very proud that I was able to have a dream, a passion. I've never waved from it. So here we are 42 years later, and my kids can attest to the fact that I love what I do so much. And I think it's so important for everyone to find that something in their life that they connect with, no matter what it is, and to pursue it and give it 110%. If I'm allowed to talk about a second topic, it would be becoming a woman-owned certified business. I would say that Emily was very influential in that. I saw the importance of being a woman-owned business, but I never really realized how it would elevate us as a company to become a certified women-owned business. So many great things, from being a female founder 200 to being able to staff the Super Bowl and doing a whole different level of work came from that. So finding your voice and using it. And Diana, Emily, you've got your own story to tell.
Diana, do you want to go first?
I'm really proud that I helped launch Syndicate Blue with Susan and Michael, and just all the people that I've helped train that came and didn't really know anything about creative side of things, and help them and train them and watch them grow, and just all the wonderful talent that I've placed that I still work with, from 20 years ago, and I'm still in touch with those people, and they become clients, and and you kind of grow with them and see them grow, and it's just really rewarding. I think just helping people is what I'm most proud of.
My answer is similar to Diana's. I'm very proud of the relationships that I've built throughout my career. The clients and the candidates have become really, not all of them, but really good friends. And so I really enjoyed being able to sort of see my own network expand, and the power of a network and referrals and being able to help people. But I think that in a industry that can be transactional, what I feel proud of is my ability to intertwine my philanthropy with this business. And so I'm on the board of Best Buddies, which is a nonprofit organization that specializes in helping people with intellectual disabilities. So being able to weave that into our business has been incredibly fulfilling. So Career Group Companies does help many people, with autism spectrum disorder, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, find positions in the workplace. And so I think that is, a sector that is often sector people that's really overlooked. And so we have been really fortunate to be able to partner with that organization to, again, just help people. So I think that's been the most rewarding for me.
Thank you for sharing all that. I think it's so inspiring and important for women to share those things. So hugely appreciated. With that, looking back at all these careers that you've built for yourself over the many years, I'm curious what comes to mind for each of you. If you were to think, okay, what advice would I give my younger self today? Looking back when she was however old, however many years old, in her early 20s, let's say, what would you tell that girl? Could each of you come up with something that comes to mind?
You want to go first, Emily? Q?
Well, I moved halfway across the world, and I was when I was younger, and I was very scared to do that. But I don't know. I just felt very unsettled. I'm from Australia originally, and I always wanted to work in the United States. I went to school here, but I always wanted to come back and work, and I was really scared. But I think not to be scared, that it's going to be okay. Like, go with your gut, and don't be afraid to do things that make you very uncomfortable. Because I think that's where real growth happens, is when you're uncomfortable and scared. Just dive right in. You can always go back, but take the plunge, whatever that may be. whether it's moving
Mm.
countries or, you know, starting a business of your own or whatever that may be. Whatever scares you the most, do it, because it worked for me. Somehow.
Thank
I
you.
think that I would probably tell myself or gift myself with a little bit more perspective, which I didn't have when I was just getting started. And so I would find myself really stressed out or anxious about something at work or nervous about the things in this business that I couldn't control because working with people, there's a lot of variables. And so what I do today that has really allowed me to have that perspective is take a look at a situation that's happening and ask myself if this is a big problem or a small problem. And if it's, even if it feels like a 911 in the moment, is this something that's actually going to make an impact on me or my career tomorrow, 6 months from now, or a year from now? And usually the answer is no. And so it allows me to kind of respond more appropriately. And so that is something that I wish I could go back and tell myself when I was younger in this business.
Mm.
So, what I would tell my younger self is to get started as fast as you can in thinking about your life, a career, your future. I think it's impossible to know when you're really young what it is that you want to do. Um, very much like Diana, um, I think I've learned the majority of my life lessons when it comes to business actually through failing. Um, I think it's important to let yourself flop at something because it teaches you to have strength and resilience and to get back up and kind of be that warrior and not really let it get you down, but to work through it and kind of figure out what you could have done differently, if anything. But I'm sort of an eternal optimist. I feel that these life lessons come to us so that we can learn. Um, and so I would just tell myself, get started sooner. And the fear of failing is really that fear is really what sort of propelled me to want to win.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's great. We have time for a few more audience questions before we wrap up today. One that I'm noticing here is really about the transparency in the application process. Uh, Tara asks, could you all talk about the pipeline a typical resume goes through? For example, I see a job posting on Fairygodboss, I apply. How many applications are filtered out due to keywords and how many are seen by actual people?
I think it depends where you're applying. And so I often find that a lot of the larger companies utilize applicant tracking systems that are using tools like AI to weed out applications from a very technical standpoint, and they're looking at keywords. So oftentimes people may feel as though they're submitting an application for a role, and it's just sort of like sitting in a large, their application is just sitting in a large database, never to be seen again. That can happen. And so I think when you're applying to firms that are a little bit more boutique in nature, couple hundred people or less, or going through recruiters, you may have more of a personal experience. And I would suggest perhaps submitting an application and maybe following up with somebody at the company with a personal message to stand out is always a good thing to do. If the role's posted online, it's not confidential. Therefore, I think it's fair game to reach out and express interest, or say something in that message that maybe just a resume, they may never see it. So that's your chance to make an impact. But yeah, when you're going to a recruiting company like ours, for example, we don't use keywords in our application. So we're really taking a look at every resume. Every resume is being viewed by a human being. If somebody's not contacted, it's not a no forever. We might just not have any openings at the time that fit the bill. So that interview may not be prioritized that week, but that's just something to consider.
Nice. Yeah, thank you. Another question that I noticed is the following. Most recruiters I approach are not interested in engaging with talent unless it's around a specific position that is available, right? So linked to what you just mentioned a little bit. Is there a better way I should be engaging with recruiters when a specific job is not posted?
Well, I don't think that we look at every resume as a potential person to place in a role. I may not have the perfect job for that individual today, but I could have it 3 hours later or tomorrow morning. And
Right.
so I don't ever personally, and I think everybody here in the company would agree, we look at someone's resume as, do we feel that this is somebody who we can place, whether it's tomorrow, the next day. And often, if we don't have a role, let me say this, I think a good recruiter can place anyone. I say it all the time. I don't need to have a job today that I'm working on to place somebody. If I believe in the candidate, I'm going to call my clients. One, I'm going to reach out to the candidate. I'm going to want to FaceTime you. I'm going to want to get to know you. If you're local, I'd like to bring you actually into the office and not only meet with you personally, but we have a lot of recruiters here that have their own roles and clients that they're working on. And I'm working with you because I'm making a commitment to you. It doesn't have to be for a specific role right now. And then I'd like to let everybody know, before we sign off, just all the different industries that we place people in, because somebody asked about fashion earlier. We don't have to talk about it right now, but we have a lot of specialists here who do great work in all industries.
That's great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Emily, Susan, Diana, this has been so wonderful. You've been so open and generous with your time and checking the chat, making sure that all questions are answered. So thank you so much.
Of course.
Yeah, and thank you for everyone tuning in, everyone who asked the questions, who engaged. As a reminder, we will be sending out the recording of today's event. So you are probably taking copious notes, but you could also go back and watch this again on your own time. And we'll also send some resources for you to learn more about opportunities at career group companies, which Susan just mentioned. And in the meantime, be sure to check out career group companies' profile on Fairygodboss because you can get a lot of information there as well. Before we sign off, we'd love to hear your feedback to help improve future events. So please head to the Typeform tab on the right side of your screen to share your thoughts. It just takes a minute and it's helpful to us. So thank you so much for your time. Again, Susan, Emily, Diana, thank you so much. And thanks everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.